There is a moment, sharp, quiet, undeniable, when you realize you've been living on autopilot without ever noticing it. A moment when you look at your life and finally admit, this isn't random. This is repetition. Not destiny, not bad luck. Patterns. Patterns built from the attitude you've carried for years without questioning it. An attitude that has been choosing your reactions, choosing your confidence, choosing your limits, long before you consciously chose anything. Your attitude is not just how you feel today. It's the atmosphere of your mind. It's the way you interpret pressure, the way you speak to yourself when no one is listening, the way your energy enters a room before your words do. People think circumstance shapes attitude. They're wrong. Attitude shapes circumstance. It determines whether you see obstacles or openings, whether you freeze or advance, whether you repeat your past or rewrite it. You can change your job, your relationship, your city, your circle. But if your attitude stays the same, your life will eventually circle back to the same lessons. That's why this audiobook exists. Not to make you positive, but to make you powerful. To help you see the unconscious tone you bring into your days. Because right now, there is a gap between the strength you have and the strength you live with. In the chapters ahead, you won't just learn to adjust your mindset. You will learn to command it, to regulate your emotions instead of leaking them, to meet pressure with clarity instead of panic, to stop reacting out of habit and start responding out of intention. Your attitude has been shaping your life. Now, you're going to shape your attitude. This is where the real version of you begins. If you're ready to rise above the noise, like the video, it tells YouTube you're choosing awareness over autopilot. Subscribe now and don't miss the next chapter in your evolution. And remember, the deepest transformation belongs to those who stay until the very end. Chapter 1. Decide how you will think before the world touches you. There is a moment every morning before the world reaches you, before the messages arrive, before the noise returns, before yesterday's worries try to pull you back into the same mental loop. That moment is small, but it is powerful. It is the moment you choose who you are going to be today. Not the world, not circumstance. You. Most people never claim that moment. They wake up and fall straight into the thoughts that carried them through yesterday. The doubt, the stress, the scattered focus. They pick up their phone and hand their mind over to notifications and urgency. They start their day already behind, already reactive, already shaped by forces outside of them. They do not choose their attitude. Life chooses it for them. But if you want to change your life, you must change how you think before your day begins. This is not a motivational phrase. It is a law of consciousness, a principle of energy, a pattern of the mind. Your thoughts are the architects of your actions, and your actions are the architects of your results. When you start your day consciously, you shift the entire direction of your life. Every morning gives you a doorway. On one side is repetition. On the other side is intention. You can wake up and drift into the same tired narrative. I'm overwhelmed. I'm not ready. I'm behind. Or you can take the steering wheel back. You can interrupt the autopilot program and say, today, I choose a stronger mind. You do not need a perfect routine to do this. You do not need candles, silence, sunlight, or a motivational video. You need one thing: a decision. A firm one. A decision that says, I will not let this day shape me. I will shape it. I will lead my mind before the world gets a chance to pull it in every direction. Your morning mind is the most programmable version of you. Science calls this the theta alpha window, when your brain is open, impressionable, ready to absorb new commands. Spiritual science calls it your energetic opening, when your field is clear and your vibration is malleable. This is why the first thoughts you choose are not small. They set your frequency. They tune your internal state. They activate the lens through which you will experience everything that follows. If you start the day with fear, your mind begins scanning for threats. If you start the day with confidence, your mind begins scanning for opportunities. If you start the day in chaos, your nervous system learns to expect more chaos. If you start the day with clarity, your system stabilizes itself around focus. You are not just choosing thoughts. You are choosing a reality. Most people never realize their mornings are running on an old script. They get out of bed and immediately enter the same cycle that kept them stuck the day before. The mind drifts. Complaints rise. Yesterday's frustrations return to replay themselves. And without noticing, they begin the day reacting instead of directing. But you are not here to repeat that pattern. You are here to take ownership of your consciousness, to wake up and claim your internal space before anything external has the chance to invade it. This is not about being positive. It is about being aware. The moment you open your eyes, you ask yourself, not what kind of day will it be, but what kind of person will I be in this day? Will I be someone who collapses into habit, or someone who holds their energy with intention? This is where your attitude begins. It is not a reaction halfway through the day. It is the foundation you lay before your feet even touch the ground. Attitude is not something you show after success arrives. It is what creates success. It is what keeps you steady when life puts weight on your shoulders. It is what helps you find solutions when most people only see problems. So when you choose your thoughts in the morning, choose them with discipline. If you catch yourself complaining, stop. If you catch yourself slipping into old negativity, pause and redirect. Every correction builds emotional strength. Every redirection strengthens your inner leadership. No one can do this for you. Not the world, not friends, not mentors. Emotional strength is not given. It is built, repetition by repetition, morning after morning. And the morning belongs to you, unless you give it away. When you do not lead your mind early, the world will lead it for you. And the world's attitude is scattered, fearful, reactive. You do not want to live in that frequency. You want to rise above it. You want to set a tone that comes from clarity, not chaos, from intention, not impulse. So begin your day with a simple truth. You create your attitude. You choose the frequency you step into. You direct the meaning you give to whatever comes your way. You lead your mind, or your mind leads you. And where an undirected mind goes is rarely where you want to be. When you master this, when you learn to think better before the day begins, you will feel different. You will act different. People will notice without you saying a word. Your energy will speak first. Your presence will shift rooms. Your mind will stop being a battlefield and become a compass. This is where a strong life begins, not with luck, not with perfect circumstances, but with mornings you claim, thoughts you choose, and an attitude you build on purpose. This is your foundation, and it begins now. Chapter 2. Stand your ground when everything feels against you. Life will not always meet you gently. There will be seasons when the ground shakes beneath you, when plans fall apart without warning, when people disappoint you, when pressure stacks itself on your shoulders, and when nothing feels like it is moving in your favor. These are the moments that divide people, those who collapse under the weight of circumstances, and those who stand tall in spite of them. And if you want a strong life, you must learn to stand your ground, not when it's easy, but when everything feels against you. Standing your ground does not mean pretending everything is fine. It does not mean ignoring your emotions or forcing yourself into a fake smile. It means holding your center when the world tries to pull you out of it. It means choosing not to fall apart just because your environment is shaking. It means anchoring yourself in values, discipline, and clarity. Even when your feelings are loud, your challenges are heavy, and your doubts are loud. Most people break in these moments because they never built themselves for pressure. They look strong on good days, but their strength was borrowed, not built. Borrowed from comfort, borrowed from approval, borrowed from circumstances going their way. When the pressure arrives, they lose their balance. They react, they blame, they panic, they shrink. But you are not here to be like most people. You are here to rise through pressure, to grow through resistance, to show yourself what you are truly capable of when life stops cooperating. Pressure is not your enemy. Pressure is feedback. Pressure shows you where your old patterns still run, where your inner foundation is weak, where your emotional muscles have not been trained. Strength is not built in calm waters. It is built in storms. Even in nature, the strongest trees are the ones that grow in winds, not in perfect silence. Their roots deepen because the wind demands it. Your life is no different. Pressure is the wind that asks you to root yourself deeper than you ever have before. Spiritually, pressure is an initiation. It is the universe asking, do you really believe what you say you believe? Do you trust yourself beyond convenience? Are you ready to become the next version of you? Or are you attached to who you were? Hard times test the integrity of your energy. They reveal whether your confidence is internal or borrowed from circumstances. They expose whether your peace is real or only present when nothing is challenging it. They show you the truth about your foundation, not to break you, but to rebuild you stronger. When your world shakes, that is when you find out who you are beneath the surface. Will you react from fear or respond from clarity? Will you fall back into old patterns or stand firm in new principles? Will you let emotions run you or will you lead them? These questions matter because your responses in these moments create your identity. They write the story you live in. They shape the person you become. To stand your ground is not to be rigid. It is to be rooted. A rigid person breaks under pressure. A rooted person bends, but does not fall. You remain flexible in strategy, but unshakable in character. You stay open to change, but closed to self-betrayal. You know what you are willing to allow and what you are not. You keep your standard even when others lower theirs. You keep your composure even when others choose chaos. You keep your direction even when people doubt your path. This is emotional leadership. And emotional leadership is the difference between living a life defined by external chaos and living a life defined by internal strength. The world may shake, but you do not let the storm get inside you. You become the calm center. You become the grounded presence. You become the person people look at and wonder how you are still standing. Not because life is easy, but because you are no longer shaped by life's unpredictability. When you stand your ground, you send a message to your mind. We do not crumble here. You send a message to your body. We are safe even when challenged. You send a message to the world. I am not moved by things that used to break me. This is power. Not loud power, not aggressive power. Quiet, rooted, disciplined power. The kind that does not need to announce itself. the kind that is felt. Yes, people may misunderstand you. They may criticize your standards. They may question your decisions. That is fine. You do not build your life around opinions. You build it around truth, intention, and values that withstand pressure. Some people will fall away as you grow stronger. Let them. Not everyone is meant to walk with you into every season. Your peace is worth more than their approval. And remember, you have survived storms you once thought would destroy you. You have walked through pain you thought you could not handle. You have overcome days you thought would break you. Yet here you are, still standing, still breathing, still growing. Do not forget that strength. Do not underestimate it. Do not act like you are fragile when your entire history proves otherwise. Standing your ground is not about perfection. It is about commitment. Commitment to your values, commitment to your future, commitment to your inner stability, commitment to honoring who you are becoming, not who you used to be. Every time you choose to stay centered during chaos, you reshape your identity. You become more of the person you were meant to be. So when everything feels against you, stand tall. Ground yourself. Breathe deeper. Remember who you are. Remember what you have lived through. Remember the strength inside you that has never left. And prove to yourself, not the world, not the critics, not the noise, that you are not someone who backs down when life gets difficult. You are someone who rises. You are someone who grows. You are someone who stands firm, even in the storm. This is where inner power is built. This is where character is forged. This is where the next version of you begins. Chapter 3. Talk to yourself. The way a winner does every single day. You speak to yourself every single day, not always out loud, but always in your mind, in moments of silence, in moments of stress, in moments when nobody is watching. Your inner voice becomes the quiet architect of your confidence, your energy, and your future. The way you talk to yourself determines how you walk into rooms, how you interpret challenges, how you bounce back from failure, and how boldly you pursue the life you want. And the truth is simple. You cannot live like a winner if you keep talking to yourself like someone who expects to lose. Most people never pay attention to the voice inside their own head. They let it run wild, shaped by old wounds, old memories, old fears. They speak to themselves in ways they would never speak to someone they love. They say, "I'm not good enough. I always mess things up. Why can't I get this right?" They repeat these sentences until their mind turns them into identity. Then their identity shapes their actions, and their actions shape their results. Before they realize it, their self-talk has become a self-fulfilling prophecy. A winner does not speak that way. A winner may feel frustrated, but they do not label themselves as failures. A winner may struggle, but they do not tear themselves down to the level of their lowest moments. A winner uses words not to punish themselves, but to guide themselves. They speak with clarity, intention, and direction. Their self-talk is not empty hype. It is discipline. It is a form of leadership. It is the practice of instructing the mind instead of being bullied by it. Because self-talk is not just talking. It is programming. Your brain is always listening. Every sentence you repeat becomes a thread woven into your neural pathways. Neuroscience calls this neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself based on repeated thoughts and emotional patterns. Spiritual science describes the same idea through energy. The words you speak generate vibrations that shape the emotional frequency you live in. Whether you describe it through neurons or vibration, the reality is the same. Your words shape your inner world, and your inner world shapes everything you experience. If you want a strong life, you must fix the conversation happening inside you. You must catch yourself the moment your inner critic starts speaking in absolutes. Never, always, can't, not enough. These are not truths. These are old patterns echoing through the mind. You interrupt them not with fake positivity, but with grounded truth. When your mind says, "I can't handle this," you respond with, "I've handled things harder than this." When your mind says, "I always mess things up," you counter with, "I am learning, I'm improving, I'm growing." These shifts are not small. They are psychological pivots that change your entire emotional trajectory. Winners do not wait for outside validation. They do not wait for someone else to encourage them, believe in them, or tell them they are capable. They speak strength into themselves. They speak discipline into themselves. They speak direction into themselves. Not because life is easy, but because they have learned that the most important words they will ever hear are the ones they tell themselves in the quiet moments when nobody else is there. If you wouldn't let a stranger speak to you the way you speak to yourself, then your self-talk needs to evolve. There is a difference between honesty and harshness. Honesty tells you where to improve. Harshness tells you that you are the problem. Honesty leads to growth. Harshness leads to shame. Most people punish themselves mentally for things they would forgive instantly in someone else. And that pattern, unchecked and repeated, keeps them stuck. You do not break that pattern in one day. You break it through consistent correction. You build a new inner voice by choosing new language every single time the old voice tries to return. Eventually, your mind learns a new rhythm. Eventually, your self-talk supports you instead of sabotaging you. Remember this: your inner voice is your companion from the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep. If you make it your enemy, life becomes heavier. If you make it your coach, your partner, your guide, life becomes clearer. The words you whisper to yourself when things go wrong are far more important than the words you say when everything is going well. Think about how many times you have talked yourself out of something you wanted. How many times doubt killed your effort before you even began? How many times you told yourself you weren't ready, weren't capable, weren't enough? Now imagine who you would become if you replaced that voice with one that supported you. Not blindly, not unrealistically, but powerfully. A voice that says, "Try again, adjust, grow. You can handle this. You are becoming stronger." No one else can give you that voice. They can inspire you, but they can't speak inside your mind. That is your job. That is your responsibility. Becoming a winner means becoming the leader of your own thoughts, the guardian of your own self-perception. Because the tone you use with yourself becomes the emotional climate you live in. And the emotional climate you live in determines how far you will go. A strong inner voice doesn't come from perfection. It comes from practice. You build it one word at a time, one correction at a time, one moment of awareness at a time. You do the work others ignore. You shape the conversation others allow to destroy them. You speak like someone who respects themselves. You speak like someone who knows their path. You speak like someone who has decided to rise, even if nobody else sees the rise yet. Talk to yourself like a winner, not because you're trying to pretend, but because you are becoming the kind of person who no longer needs permission to believe in themselves. And when you do, when your self-talk shifts from fear to strength, from doubt to direction, you won't just feel different. You will live different. You will move different, and your results will follow you. Chapter 4. Drop the mindset that keeps you feeling small. You were not born to live small. You were not designed to shrink yourself, to play safe, or to tiptoe around your own potential. But somewhere along the way, you picked up a mindset that taught you to expect less from life, and even less from yourself. It didn't happen overnight. It happened through subtle messages, disappointing experiences, comparisons that cut deeper than they should have, and people who gave up on their own growth and accidentally convinced you to give up on yours. That mindset has been sitting inside you like a quiet weight, pulling you back every time you try to rise. You feel it when an opportunity appears, and the first thing your mind whispers is, "Not you." You feel it when you want to step forward, but something inside you tells you to wait. You feel it when you try to dream bigger, but a voice within reminds you of every mistake you've ever made. This voice is not truth. It is conditioning. It is a pattern. It is a memory pretending to be a prediction. And the longer you let it guide your choices, the smaller your life becomes. The small mindset disguises itself as humility, caution, logic. But it is none of those things. It is fear, dressed in reasonable language. It is self-doubt, pretending to protect you. It is old pain, trying to convince you that the future will look like the past. But you are not your past. You are not defined by who you were when you didn't know better, didn't have strength yet, or didn't understand your own power. You are not trapped unless you agree to be. If you want to change your life, you must drop the mindset that keeps you small. You cannot keep repeating the same self-limiting thoughts and expect a different reality. You cannot keep telling yourself you are not ready, not capable, or not like them, and expect to grow. Your outer world will never expand beyond the borders of your inner world. If you want bigger results, you must become a person who thinks in bigger dimensions. That begins with honesty. You must recognize the moments when your small mindset takes over. The hesitation that shows up before you try something new. The habit of assuming others can, but you cannot. The instinct to compare yourself to people who are further along, even though they once stood where you stand now. These reactions are not your identity. They are patterns your mind learned to survive earlier chapters of your life. But you are not meant to stay in survival mode forever. You are meant to rise into a life built on intention, not fear. From a scientific perspective, your brain is wired to protect you by avoiding discomfort. It prefers the familiar, even when the familiar is limiting. It prefers predictability, even when predictability keeps you stuck. Spiritually, this is called staying inside a contracted state, a state where your energy folds inward instead of reaching outward. Every time you play small, your energy field tightens, your confidence weakens, and your potential remains unused. But when you stretch yourself, even a little, you expand your energetic field. You create space for new possibilities to enter your life. You will lose people when you start growing, not because you did something wrong, but because your expansion challenges their comfort. People who never dealt with their own fear will naturally encourage you to stay small, not out of malice, but because your growth shines a light on the limitations they refuse to face. But their comfort is not your responsibility. Their fear is not your problem to carry. You are responsible for your own evolution. Dropping the small mindset requires courage, not loud courage, but quiet, disciplined courage. The courage to try even when your voice shakes. The courage to speak up even when you fear being judged. The courage to apply for things you think you're not ready for. The courage to break patterns instead of repeating them. Every act of courage expands you. Every act of fear shrinks you. The more you expand, the less you fit inside the small version of yourself you used to accept. And yes, you will feel discomfort. Growth always requires pressure, but comfort is the enemy of progress. Every moment you choose comfort over expansion, you delay your future. Every moment you choose fear over action, you reinforce the lie that you are not capable. But the people who rise in life are not the ones who feel fearless. They are the ones who feel fear and refuse to obey it. The truth is, you have already proven you are bigger than the mindset you're carrying. You survived things that should have broken you. You overcame challenges you didn't feel prepared for. You learned things you once believed were impossible. You have evidence of strength, of resilience, of potential. Evidence your small mindset refuses to acknowledge. But you must acknowledge it. You must see yourself clearly. You must let the truth of who you are be louder than the fear of who you were. There is no reward for playing small. There is no prize for shrinking yourself so others feel comfortable. There is no benefit in holding back your ideas, your voice, your ambition. All that gives you is regret. Regret for opportunities you talked yourself out of. Regret for potential you never explored. Regret for a life that could have been bigger, deeper, richer. It is time to drop the mindset that keeps you small. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel perfectly ready. Not when everything makes sense. Now. Because smallness is not your nature. It is a habit passed down to you by people who could not see their own power. But you do not have to carry their limits. You do not have to inherit their fear. You do not have to adopt a life that does not match the truth of your potential. From this point forward, choose expansion. Choose growth. Choose to speak to yourself as the person you are becoming, not the person you once were. Let the small mindset fall away. Step into the strength that has always been inside you, waiting for you to claim it. You were never meant to think small. You were meant to rise. Chapter 5. Let go of choices that steal your peace daily. Every day, you make choices. Most of them feel small, barely noticeable, barely meaningful. What you say yes to, what you tolerate, what you scroll, what you consume, how long you stay in conversations that drain you, how quickly you react, what you allow into your mind before it has a chance to settle. But these small choices do not disappear. They collect. They compound. They become the emotional climate you live in, and without realizing it, some of those choices begin stealing your peace. Not suddenly, slowly, quietly, through tiny leaks in your energy that you barely notice at first. You wake up feeling tired even after sleep. You feel overwhelmed even when nothing major is happening. You feel restless, disconnected, uneasy, and you can't explain why. But the reason is simple. Your peace hasn't been lost. It has been taken piece by piece by the choices you've been repeating without awareness. Peace doesn't vanish. It is traded away. Traded to habits that do not serve you. Traded to environments that drain you. Traded to people who have no intention of giving anything back. Traded to distractions that swallow hours and leave you feeling emptier. Traded to worries you feed with your attention. And until you get brutally honest with yourself about what is stealing your peace, nothing in your life will truly feel aligned. You must start asking the hard questions. What am I allowing into my life that leaves me feeling off? What am I giving energy to that never gives anything back? What choices am I repeating simply because they are familiar, not because they are healthy. Where am I sacrificing my well-being for comfort, convenience, or approval? Your peace is not fragile, but it is sensitive. It reacts to the quality of your decisions. It breaks under the weight of constant noise. It suffers when your schedule is overloaded with things that do not matter. It weakens when you stay connected to people who thrive on chaos. It becomes blurred when your boundaries are unclear. From a nervous system perspective, every unnecessary stressor you allow into your day activates a low-level survival response. Your body stays in alert mode. Your brain rushes through thoughts. Your breath becomes shallow. Your focus becomes scattered. You are not broken. You are overstimulated. Spiritually, peace is your natural state. It is your baseline frequency, the calm center beneath all the mental noise. But every poor choice pulls you out of that center. Not because life is chaotic, but because you keep letting chaos enter the places meant to stay sacred. This is why letting go is not weakness. It is intelligence. It is self-leadership. It is emotional and energetic protection. Letting go of what steals your peace is not losing something. It is reclaiming something. Your clarity, your time, your strength, your inner space. Some choices steal your peace because they come from fear. Fear of being judged, so you say yes to things you want to decline. Fear of being alone, so you hold on to people who drain you. Fear of missing out, so you exhaust yourself trying to keep up. Fear of slowing down, so you stay busy to avoid facing your own thoughts. But fear-driven decisions always cost you clarity. They cost you calm. They cost you alignment. And the price you pay is far higher than the comfort you gain. Letting go is not about abandoning responsibilities. It is about eliminating what is not aligned with your growth. Sometimes that means deleting the apps that consume your hours. Sometimes it means choosing silence over noise, solitude over constant stimulation. Sometimes it means walking away from conversations that lower your energy. Sometimes it means holding your boundaries even when someone doesn't like it. Sometimes letting go is not about changing what you do. It is about changing why you do it. Dropping perfectionism. Dropping comparison. Dropping the need to justify every choice. Dropping the idea that you must earn your rest. Dropping the belief that chaos is normal. Peace is not passive. Peace is not accidental. Peace is a deliberate choice, a daily practice, a set of standards you refuse to compromise on. You build peace through subtraction, not addition. Less noise, less scrolling, less reacting, less explaining, less overthinking, less self-betrayal. You build peace through presence, by returning to yourself, again and again, even on days where everything feels loud inside your mind. Look at your life with honesty. Inventory every choice. Which habits leave you drained? Which people pull you out of alignment? Which patterns repeat the same emotional cycle? Which responsibilities are no longer yours to carry? Which environments shift you into stress the moment you step into them? Do not shrink from the answers. The truth will not hurt you. The truth will free you. You are allowed to choose differently. You are allowed to create space. You are allowed to stop participating in your own overwhelm. You are allowed to value your peace more than someone else's expectations. You are allowed to protect the parts of you that were never meant to be constantly exposed to noise. Peace is power. Peace is clarity. Peace is strength. When you operate from peace, your decisions become sharper. Your reactions become calmer. Your mind becomes clearer. Your energy becomes stable. You begin to navigate life from a grounded state instead of a chaotic one. You already know what you need to let go of. It has been whispering to you for a long time. The habit you keep justifying, the relationship you keep overextending, the environment you outgrew, the schedule that squeezes the life out of you, the digital world that overstimulates you, the inner dialogue that exhausts you. Let it go. Not someday. Not when circumstances change. Now. Your peace is not negotiable. Protect it with the same intensity you protect everything you care about. Because when you protect your peace, you protect your future. Chapter 6. Respond with power instead of giving weak reactions. Every day, something will test you. A comment, a delay, a disappointment, a misunderstanding, a moment where things don't go your way. Life will present situations that are designed, not to break you, but to expose the way you react. And most people don't react with strength. They react with habit. They react with emotion. They react with impulse. They let the moment decide who they're going to be. That is weakness, not because the emotion itself is weak, but because it becomes the default setting. A weak reaction is automatic. It requires no awareness, no discipline, no self-leadership. You snap, you lash out, you shut down, you overthink, you spiral. You lose control of yourself in seconds because your mind is still trained to react to life the way you always have. Weak reactions come from the oldest part of the brain, the amygdala, trained for survival, not wisdom. It fires quickly, emotionally, without context. But you are not a creature of instinct. You are a being of consciousness. You have access to a higher part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, the part that reasons, chooses, directs, leads. And every time you pause before reacting, you activate this higher part of yourself. You step into power. Responding with power doesn't mean being aggressive. It doesn't mean pushing back harder. It doesn't mean dominating the moment or trying to win every interaction. Responding with power means staying centered. It means refusing to let something small throw you off your own path. It means choosing clarity over chaos. It means controlling yourself instead of trying to control everything around you. This is emotional mastery. This is spiritual discipline. This is mental strength. Anyone can explode when they're frustrated. Anyone can panic when they're afraid. Anyone can overreact when they feel misunderstood. But it takes a different kind of person to stay steady in the middle of noise, to stay grounded when emotions rise, to breathe instead of break. That is not passiveness. That is power. Most people give away their energy because they never learned the art of the pause. They go from trigger to reaction in one straight line. Something happens, and immediately they lose themselves to the moment. Their emotions hijack their intelligence. Their impulses hijack their values. Their reactions create damage they later regret. The pause is where your strength lives. One breath, 1 second, one moment where you step out of impulse and into awareness. In that space, you decide who you want to be. You choose your direction instead of being dragged by the moment. You respond from power instead of from panic. When you learn to pause, you stop being controlled by every external event. You stop handing your peace over to strangers, delays, inconveniences, or opinions. You stop letting small things ruin your day. You begin to realize that nothing has power unless you give it power. Most situations are not as big as your reaction makes them. Most conflicts lose their strength when you stop feeding them. Most emotional storms pass quickly when you don't stand in the middle of them. And here's the truth. Your reactions are shaping your identity. Every time you choose strength over impulse, you reinforce the belief that you are in control. Every time you remain calm under pressure, you teach your body that stress does not own you. Every time you stop yourself from firing back, shutting down, or spiraling, you rewire your brain. You become someone who does not collapse under small things. You become someone whose presence carries weight. Responding with power also means knowing what deserves your energy and what doesn't. Not every comment requires a fight. Not every misunderstanding requires a long explanation. Not every setback requires an emotional collapse. Some battles are beneath you. Some conflicts do not align with your growth. Some moments are simply distractions, pulling you away from what actually matters. A powerful response is wise, not reactive. Sometimes that means speaking clearly. Sometimes that means saying nothing. Sometimes that means walking away. Sometimes that means staying calm while others lose their composure. You are not responsible for the emotional storms of others. You are responsible for the energy you bring into the room. Spiritually, this is called being anchored, holding your center, regardless of external noise. When your energy is anchored, the world doesn't shake you so easily. People feel your stability. Opportunities shift toward you. Misunderstandings dissolve faster. You begin to influence your environment instead of being shaped by it. Weak reactions may feel satisfying for a moment, but they cost you later. They cost you clarity. They cost you dignity. They cost you opportunities. They cost you peace. Power, on the other hand, builds you. It builds trust in yourself. It builds emotional intelligence. It builds respect from others and from your own reflection. It builds a life you are proud to live because you are no longer pulled by every impulse that shows up. There will always be moments that try to knock you off balance. Always. But the strongest people are not the ones who avoid challenges. They are the ones who face challenges without losing themselves. They lead themselves through the moment instead of becoming the moment. They respond with intention instead of repeating old patterns. If you want to transform your life, start here, with the next situation that tests you, with the next frustration, with the next annoyance, with the next misunderstanding. Don't try to be perfect. Just catch yourself. Notice your initial reaction. Then choose a better one. Choose a slower one. Choose a wiser one. And do it again tomorrow, and the day after that, until your old reactions lose their power. You are not meant to live reactive. You are meant to live deliberate. You are not meant to be controlled by emotions. You are meant to lead them. You are not meant to be pulled by every situation. You are meant to stand strong regardless of it. Let your response, not your reaction, be the proof of your growth. Let that be the evidence that you are becoming a stronger, steadier, more grounded version of yourself. Chapter 7. Own your thoughts before they take over you. Your thoughts shape everything: your emotions, your decisions, your habits, your confidence, and ultimately, your life. Every action you take begins as a thought. Every fear you carry begins as a thought. Every limitation you hold on to begins as a thought. And if you do not take ownership of what is happening in your mind, those thoughts will take ownership of you. They will steer you without permission. They will guide your behavior without your awareness. They will become the quiet architects of a life you never intended to build. Most people never learn to observe their own thinking. They assume every thought is accurate, every fear is valid, every worry is meaningful. They let their mind wander anywhere it wants, without understanding that the mind is not naturally disciplined. The mind is naturally chaotic. It tends to repeat whatever is familiar: old fears, old wounds, old narratives. It replays the past because the past feels safer than the unknown. But if you let the mind run unchecked, it becomes a loop that keeps you stuck repeating emotions you don't want and patterns you no longer need. Owning your thoughts begins with awareness, stepping back and watching your mind instead of automatically believing it. Your thoughts are not facts. They are signals. They are reflections of past experiences, past conditioning, past beliefs. You cannot control every thought that appears, but you can control the thoughts you feed. You can control the thoughts you follow. You can control the thoughts you turn into patterns. Think of your mind as a landscape. Some thoughts are storms passing through. Some are echoes from the past. Some are fears pretending to be warnings. Some are old reflexes, and some are seeds. Thoughts that, if watered with attention, will grow into actions, habits, and outcomes. The question is, which seeds have you been watering? Which storms have you been confusing with truth? If your thoughts constantly say, "I'm not good enough," then that is the lens your life will be filtered through. If your thoughts say, "Things never work out for me," then you will unconsciously sabotage opportunities. If your thoughts say, "I can't change," then you will stop trying before you even begin. This is not magic. It is psychology. The brain is predictive. It expects what you repeatedly tell it to expect. It seeks evidence for whatever story you repeat, even if that story is hurting you. Spiritually, this is known as the law of resonance. Your dominant thoughts create an emotional frequency that shapes what you attract, what you notice, and how you interpret your experiences. When you live in fear, your energy shrinks. When you live in doubt, your energy becomes heavy. When you live in possibility, your energy expands. Thought is the first vibration that sets your entire emotional field. This is why ownership is so critical. You cannot afford to let thoughts rooted in old pain write the script of your future. When you catch a thought that weakens you, the moment you question it, you break the pattern. You interrupt the loop. You tell your brain, "This is not truth. This is conditioning." From that small moment of awareness, your power returns. Owning your thoughts also means building a filter. Not every thought deserves your attention. Not every worry deserves your energy. Not every fear deserves your obedience. Some thoughts only appear because they are patterns from an older version of you. Patterns you have outgrown, but never challenged. When your mind tells you, "You can't handle this," respond with, "I decide what I can handle." When your mind says, "This is too hard," respond with, "Difficulty is not impossibility." When your mind says, "You never succeed," respond with, "That is a story I no longer choose." These are not affirmations. They are corrections. They are instructions. They are commands to your mind that rewire the pathways you walk every day. You must also understand that thought ownership does not mean suppressing emotions. You are not expected to be emotionless. Emotion is natural. But emotion is information, not instruction. You can feel fear without making decisions from fear. You can feel doubt without surrendering to doubt. You can feel tired without abandoning your goals. Emotional maturity is the ability to feel without obeying. Two people can face the same challenge. One will break. One will grow. The difference is not the challenge. The difference is the thoughts they choose to follow. You begin owning your thoughts by creating space, real space. Time without distraction, without noise, without the endless stimulation, that keeps your mind in reaction mode. When you are constantly consuming, you cannot hear the truth of your own mind. You must allow silence. Awareness grows in silence. Then, when an old thought appears, the one that tries to shrink you, limit you, sabotage you, you question it, you observe it, you replace it, not once, not twice, daily. Repetition is how the mind is trained. Thought ownership is not a one-time decision. It is a daily discipline. Feed your mind with input that strengthens you. Books that expand your thinking, voices that encourage growth, people who talk about possibility instead of problems, conversations that lift your frequency. Your external environment becomes your internal environment. If you surround yourself with doubt, your mind will echo it. If you surround yourself with strength, your mind will reflect it. And speak the words you want your mind to believe. Not forced positivity, but intentional language. Words that align with who you are becoming. Words that carry truth, not fear. Words that build, not weaken. Because the words you speak repeatedly become the beliefs your subconscious accepts as reality. Your mind is your most powerful tool, or your most dangerous enemy, depending on who is in charge. If you do not take ownership of your thoughts, they will take ownership of your life. They will pull you backward while you try to move forward. They will sabotage your confidence, your decisions, your relationships, your opportunities. But when you own your thoughts, when you lead your mind instead of letting it lead you, your entire life elevates. You gain clarity. You gain emotional strength. You gain inner freedom. You gain the ability to create a reality aligned with intention instead of fear. You do not need a perfect mind. You just need a trained one. Own your thoughts. Own your direction. Own your future. Chapter 8. Start showing up even when you feel off. There will be days when your mind feels heavy, your energy feels low, and nothing inside you feels aligned. Days when your motivation disappears. Days when your thoughts feel scattered. Days when you wake up and something feels off, even if you can't explain why. These days are not a sign that something is wrong with you. They are part of being human. But how you respond to those days determines the direction of your life. Most people only show up when they feel inspired. They wait for energy, wait for motivation, wait for clarity. They wait for the right mood. And while they wait, they lose momentum. They stop. They stall. They restart their life over and over because they never learned the discipline of showing up when it's uncomfortable. But the truth is this: the ability to show up when you feel off is one of the strongest skills you will ever develop. It is the difference between people who grow and people who stay stuck. The world is full of people who begin with excitement and end with excuses. Very few stay consistent when the feeling fades. That is what makes consistency a superpower. Showing up on low-energy days does not mean pretending you are fine. It does not mean forcing yourself to be perfect. It means doing what matters, even if your energy is not at 100%. It means giving what you can, not disappearing, because you cannot give everything. It means you keep the flame alive, even if it burns a little dimmer that day. Because disappearing from your responsibilities, your routines, and your goals every time you feel off creates a dangerous pattern. One missed day becomes two. Two becomes a week. A week becomes a month. And suddenly, you are rebuilding your momentum from zero again. Exhausted, frustrated, and convinced something is wrong with you. But nothing is wrong with you. You simply trained yourself to follow your emotions instead of your commitments. And emotions were never meant to lead. They were meant to be felt, understood, acknowledged. then guided by your values and your direction. Momentum is not built by perfect days. It is built by ordinary days, where you choose to show up anyway. Show up tired, show up unfocused, show up uncertain, but still show up. Your future does not care if you feel like it today. Your goals do not care about your mood. Transformation is not emotional. It is structural. It is built from actions repeated over time, regardless of how you feel. Scientifically, when you take action on low motivation days, you rewire the brain. You teach your neural pathways that discipline, not emotion, determines your behavior. You reduce the brain's reliance on dopamine spikes for motivation and strengthen the circuits responsible for long-term consistency. This is how real habits are built, not through feeling good, but through repetition. Spiritually, showing up on difficult days expands your energy field. It stretches you beyond your old limits. It strengthens your connection to your future self, the version of you who does not quit when life feels heavy. Every time you show up when it's hard, you collapse an old identity and activate a new one. You become someone you can trust, and trust in yourself is worth more than motivation. Motivation comes and goes, but self-trust, once built, becomes a permanent foundation you can rely on. On the days you feel off, don't ask yourself, "Do I feel like doing this?" Ask yourself, "What would the person I am becoming do right now?" That question shifts everything. It takes you out of emotion and connects you to identity. Your identity shapes your choices far more than your feelings ever will. If the future version of you would work anyway, then work anyway. If the future version of you would train anyway, then train anyway. If the future version of you would keep going, then keep going. You do not need the full version of yourself to show up. You just need the committed version, the honest version, the willing version. There will be days where your output is smaller, your pace is slower, your clarity is dimmer. That is okay. What matters is that you remain connected to the path. Even the smallest action keeps your momentum alive. One page read, one message answered, one task completed, one breath of intention before you move. Do not underestimate the power of small consistency. It is the difference between someone who restarts their life every few weeks and someone who builds a life that compounds over time. Your goal is not perfection. Your goal is continuity. Remember, your motivation is a guest. Your discipline is a resident. You cannot rely on the guest to build your life. You must rely on the resident. Some days, discipline will feel like the only thing holding you together. But it is enough. More than enough. Because every time you show up when you feel off, you prove something profound to yourself. You prove that your feelings do not control you. You control you. And that is where strength is born. Not in the perfect days. Not in the high-energy days. Not in the days when everything flows easily. Strength is built in the days when you have every reason to quit, but you choose to rise anyway. Strength is built in the quiet mornings, when your mind feels heavy, but you take the first step anyway. Strength is built in the moments when you are tired, overwhelmed, or unsure, but you refuse to disappear from your own life. You want to change your life? Then show up. Show up on the bright days. Show up on the heavy days. Show up on the days you don't feel like yourself. Show up in whatever capacity you can, because that version of you, the one who shows up even on low days, that is the version who transforms. That is the version who becomes unshakable. That is the version who wins. Keep showing up, even when you feel off, especially when you feel off, because that is where your future is built. Chapter 9. Break the habit of doubting your own worth. You were not born doubting yourself. Self-doubt is not your nature. It is something you learned, piece by piece, moment by moment, through experiences that made you question your voice, your strength, your value. Somewhere along the way, someone criticized you before you were ready to defend yourself. Somewhere you failed before you understood that failure is part of growth. Somewhere you compared yourself to someone who was simply further along. And slowly, doubt became a habit, a quiet one, a familiar one, a voice you accepted as truth because it had lived inside your mind for so long. But the voice that doubts your worth is not truth. It is memory. It is conditioning. It is the echo of old moments that no longer deserve authority over your future. Doubt is not humility. Doubt is not caution. Doubt is a weight, a heavy one, that keeps you from walking into the opportunities meant for you. And until you break the habit of doubting yourself, your life will always feel smaller than your potential. Doubt shows up in subtle ways. It shows up when you shrink your ideas because you're afraid they won't be taken seriously. It shows up when you talk yourself out of opportunities you secretly want. It shows up when you hold back your voice, soften your presence, or dim your strengths just to avoid the risk of being seen fully. Doubt convinces you that you need permission to be enough. But worth is not something you earn. Worth is something you own. Most people think their worth is tied to performance. How perfect they are, how productive they are, how much approval they receive. But the moment your worth depends on anything outside of you, you become fragile. You become breakable. You become someone who always needs reassurance just to feel okay. That is not strength. That is survival. And you are not meant to survive your life. You are meant to rise through it. To break the habit of doubting your worth, you must first recognize it for what it is. A habit, not a truth. A pattern, not an identity. A reflex, not a destiny. And like any habit, it can be replaced. Not instantly, not magically, but through consistent awareness and intentional correction. When your mind whispers, "You're not good enough," don't accept it. Don't negotiate with it. Interrupt it. Replace it with truth. Truth that says, "I am capable of learning. I am capable of growing. I am capable of rising." When your mind says, "Don't try, you will fail," respond with, "I've failed before and I'm still here." When your mind says, "You can't do this," respond with, "Someone with less experience has done it. Someone with more fear has done it. Someone with fewer resources has done it. Why not me?" This is not delusion. This is reclamation. This is taking back the authority you gave away years ago. Spiritually, doubting yourself lowers your energetic frequency. It contracts your field. It closes your heart. It blocks your intuition. It disconnects you from the higher version of you, the version that already knows your worth, already sees your potential, already stands in your future with strength and certainty. Doubt dims that connection. Confidence strengthens it. Scientifically, doubt creates neural pathways of avoidance. The more you doubt, the more your brain chooses safety over growth. It conditions your nervous system to interpret opportunity as danger. But when you challenge doubt, when you take action anyway, you create new neural patterns. You train your brain to see possibility instead of threat. You rewire yourself for courage. You cannot break the habit of doubt through thought alone. You break it through action. Small, consistent action. Every time you speak up when you want to stay silent, you weaken doubt. Every time you try when you feel unprepared, you weaken doubt. Every time you take a step forward without guarantees, you weaken doubt. These are the moments that shift identity, not the easy moments, the honest ones. You must also stop feeding the comparisons that keep you small. Comparison is a distortion. You compare your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. You compare your starting point to someone else's 10th chapter. You compare your uncertainty to someone else's practiced confidence. Comparison steals clarity. It steals momentum. It steals joy. And worst of all, it feeds the lie that you are not enough. You are not supposed to be like them. You are supposed to be like you. The you that is still unfolding, still becoming, still rising. Trust your timeline. Trust your progression. Trust that you can grow at your own pace without racing someone else's journey. Breaking the habit of doubt also requires breaking your attachment to external validation. When you allow other people's reactions to dictate your self-worth, you give strangers power over your identity. Approval becomes a drug. You cannot breathe without it. But confidence built on other people's opinions will collapse the moment those opinions shift. Real confidence doesn't come from people agreeing with you. It comes from you agreeing with yourself. Look at your past. Look at what you've overcome. Look at the times you thought you would break and didn't. Look at the challenges you survived, the moments you grew from, the storms that tried to destroy you but only strengthened you. You have evidence of your worth, evidence of your resilience, evidence of your capability. You have simply been conditioned to overlook it. At some point, you must stop repeating the voices that wounded you and start strengthening the voice that belongs to you. You must decide that your worth is not up for debate. You must decide that you will no longer doubt what your life has repeatedly proven, that you are strong, capable, resilient, and worthy of more than you've allowed yourself to believe. You don't break the habit of doubt in one grand moment. You break it through many small ones, moments where you choose self-respect over self-criticism, courage over fear, truth over memory, identity over insecurity, and each choice becomes a brick that builds a stronger version of you. You are not behind. You are not less than. You are not broken. You are becoming. And becoming takes time. Becoming takes patience. Becoming takes belief. You are worthy, not because of what you've achieved, but because of who you are becoming every time you decide to rise above doubt. Break the habit. Step into your worth. Stand fully in who you are. Chapter 10. Choose growth today and stop waiting for motivation. Growth is not something that arrives by accident. It is not something that appears when life feels easy, when motivation rises, or when the timing is perfect. Growth is a choice. One you make today. One you make consciously. One you make even when your emotions are not aligned with it. Most people spend their whole lives waiting. They wait for motivation. They wait for clarity. They wait for confidence. They wait for the right moment. And while they wait, life moves forward without them. Waiting becomes a pattern, a comfortable trap disguised as patience, a subtle form of self-sabotage that feels innocent but steals years. Motivation is too inconsistent to build a life on. Some days, it floods you. Other days, it disappears without warning. If your progress depends on motivation, you will live in cycles of starting strong, slowing down, stopping completely, and starting again from zero. And every time you restart, the journey feels heavier. You don't rise because you feel ready. You rise because you decide. Growth belongs to the person who chooses to take the next step, even when they don't feel like it, even when they doubt themselves, even when the excitement is gone, the path is unclear, and the resistance is loud. That is where transformation begins, not in moments of inspiration, but in moments of discipline. Motivation is a spark. Discipline is the fire, and consistency is the fuel that keeps that fire alive. When you choose growth today, you remove emotion from the center of your life. You stop asking yourself, "Do I feel motivated?" and begin asking, "What needs to be done?" You stop letting moods determine your future. You stop letting temporary feelings dictate long-term results. Your emotional state will change hundreds of times in a single week. But your direction does not have to. Scientifically, every time you take action without motivation, you strengthen the neural pathways responsible for discipline and long-term focus. You train your brain to follow intention rather than impulse. You build identity, an identity of someone who can rely on themselves, someone who does what they say, someone who keeps moving despite discomfort. Identity is what sustains habits when motivation disappears. Spiritually, choosing growth aligns you with your higher timeline. You enter a frequency of expansion rather than stagnation. Growth is an energy field. Every small choice that stretches you increases the vibration you live in. When you choose action over hesitation, courage over comfort, consistency over excuses, you align yourself with a version of you that already exists, your expanded self, your future self, the self who lives without the limits you still cling to. Choosing growth makes you magnetic. It alters the way you speak, move, think, and respond. When you show up consistently, you create a field of momentum around you. The universe responds to motion, not intention alone. Doors open for people who walk, not people who wait. The truth is, you already know what you need to do. The plan is not the problem. Clarity is not the problem. The problem is waiting for the feeling to match the action. Feelings are not meant to lead. They are meant to be guided. Motivation should not be the driver of your life. It should be a bonus, a companion, a spark that fuels you on the days when it appears, but not a requirement for action. Growth asks a different question. Are you willing? Not, are you ready? Not, are you excited? Not, do you feel good today? Are you willing? Are you willing to learn even when you're tired? Are you willing to begin even when you feel behind? Are you willing to move forward without applause, without certainty, without instant results? Are you willing to show up without the emotional comfort you wish you had? Willingness is what separates those who evolve from those who stay stuck. Choosing growth today means choosing responsibility. Responsibility for your habits, your time, your energy, your mindset. It means looking at the small decisions that quietly shape your life. The messages you respond to, the hours you waste, the routines you abandon when you're stressed, the promises you break to yourself. Growth begins when you stop betraying your own potential. You don't have to change everything today. You don't need to transform overnight. Growth is not about grand gestures. It is about the next step, the next minute, the next choice. You rise one decision at a time. You change by doing the small things consistently, even when they feel insignificant. The biggest breakthroughs usually come from the smallest steps taken consistently. There will be days where the effort feels invisible, days where your progress feels painfully slow, days where you feel like nothing is changing. But something is changing. Your identity is changing. Your discipline is changing. Your frequency is changing. Your internal world is shifting, even when your external results haven't caught up yet. This is where most people quit, right before the transformation becomes visible. They stop because they think the growth isn't working, not realizing that growth always works internally before it shows externally. You cannot plant a seed and dig it up every day to check if it is growing. You water it, you protect it, you trust the process. You stay consistent. Choosing growth is choosing faith in your own evolution. And one day, without warning, you will look back and realize the person you once were is gone. The procrastination is gone. The hesitation is gone. The fear that once controlled you has weakened. The voice that used to doubt you is quieter. You will not remember the exact day the shift happened, but you will know it began on a day just like today, when you decided to stop waiting. Growth is not asking for perfection from you. Growth is asking for presence, for consistency, for willingness. You rise to the level of your commitment, not your motivation. So choose growth today, not tomorrow, not later, not when life feels smoother. Choose it now, in the middle of uncertainty, in the middle of fatigue, in the middle of resistance. Because when you choose growth in the moments that feel inconvenient, you build a strength that is unshakable. This is how transformation begins. This is how momentum is born. This is how a strong life is built. One small, intentional choice at a time. Choose growth today. Your future is waiting for the version of you who stops postponing their own evolution. Chapter 11. Master the environment that shapes your mind. Your environment is shaping you in ways you rarely notice. Not just the physical space you live in, but the mental, emotional, and energetic environment you allow yourself to exist in every single day. Most people believe their mindset is built internally, but the truth is, your surroundings influence your thoughts long before you consciously create them. What you hear, what you see, what you scroll, who you allow near your energy. These things shape your mind with or without your permission. If you do not design your environment with intention, your environment will design you by default. Think about the conversations you participate in. Think about the people whose voices you absorb. Think about the places you spend time in. Think about the messages you see online for hours without realizing it. All of these are inputs, and your mind always becomes a reflection of its inputs. If you constantly consume negativity, your inner world will echo negativity. If you constantly surround yourself with distractions, your mind will become scattered. If you constantly absorb other people's fears, doubts, and limitations, your subconscious will begin to believe they belong to you. This is not weakness. This is biology. The human brain mirrors what it repeatedly encounters. Mirror neurons fire when you watch someone else act, speak, or express emotion. Your nervous system takes on the energy of the environments you inhabit, most frequently. This is why anxious people make you anxious. Focused people make you focused. Disciplined people elevate your standards without saying a word. Spiritually, energy is transferable. Every environment has a frequency. Some expand you, some drain you. Some environments force you to shrink just to fit in. Others pull you upward the moment you step into them. You have felt this before. The heaviness of certain rooms, the lightness of certain people, the clarity that comes from certain spaces, the confusion that rises in others. None of this is random. Your energy field reacts to your surroundings. And if you want to rise, you cannot continue to live in environments that pull you down. You must study your environment with honesty. The conversations that leave you feeling smaller are not harmless. The places that cloud your thinking are not accidental. The people who drain your energy are not neutral. You cannot build a stronger mind while living in spaces that sabotage your growth. Transformation requires environmental alignment. You cannot upgrade your life while remaining loyal to environments built for an older version of you. Look closely at the places where you lose your focus. Look at the people who trigger your doubt. Look at the habits that interrupt your clarity. These are environmental cues, signals pointing to what must change if you want to rise. You cannot out-discipline an environment designed to distract you. You cannot outgrow a circle that refuses to grow with you. And you cannot become your strongest self while surrounding yourself with things that weaken your spirit. You must choose the environment that reflects the life you are building, not the life you are leaving behind. Sometimes this means letting go. Letting go of relationships that keep you stuck in old identities. Letting go of spaces that hold memories of versions of you that no longer exist. Letting go of routines that drain your energy. Letting go of the noise that keeps your mind from hearing your own direction. This is not selfishness. This is self-preservation. You cannot grow if you keep staying in soil that no longer nourishes you. Your environment must support your evolution. You need spaces that breathe clarity into you. People who remind you of your strength. Inputs that challenge your thinking upward. Energy that expands your sense of possibility. And remember this: your inner environment matters just as much as your external one. What you allow to remain in your mind becomes the environment you carry with you everywhere you go. The self-talk, the fears, the judgments, the stories. You live inside these thoughts. They shape your emotional weather. They determine how you move through the world. This is why meditation, reflection, and silence are powerful. They reset your internal environment. Your mind needs space to detox from the noise. Your spirit needs moments of stillness. Your nervous system needs room to breathe. If your external life is chaotic and your internal world is equally chaotic, you will feel overwhelmed even on peaceful days. You must clear the noise inside you to hear your own direction. Growth requires intentional environments, inside and out. You need a physical space that reflects clarity, a mental space that reflects intention, an emotional space that reflects strength, a spiritual space that reflects alignment. You cannot rise in an environment built on your old limitations. You cannot evolve while staying loyal to spaces that contradict your potential. You cannot build a powerful life while living in an energy field that weakens you. The environment you choose is a declaration of the future you're building. So choose wisely. Choose spaces that strengthen your focus. Choose people who elevate your standards. Choose inputs that sharpen your mind. Choose silence when the world becomes too loud. Choose energy that expands your spirit. Choose environments that reflect the person you are becoming, not the person you used to be. Your environment is not just where you live. It is what you absorb. It is what you tolerate. It is what you allow. It is what you repeat. And the moment you master your environment, externally, mentally, emotionally, energetically, you create the conditions for your strongest life to unfold. Build your environment with intention. Your future depends on it. Chapter 12. Build the discipline that keeps your life together. Discipline is the invisible structure that holds your life together. Motivation may start the engine, but discipline keeps the wheels turning long after the excitement fades. Without discipline, your goals remain ideas, your dreams remain fantasies, your potential remains unused. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you are becoming, and the strength of that bridge determines how far you can travel. Most people misunderstand discipline. They think it is punishment, restriction, or self-denial. But real discipline is self-respect in action. It is choosing long-term alignment over short-term comfort. It is choosing what strengthens you over what weakens you. It is choosing who you want to become over who you used to be. Discipline is not the enemy. Discipline is the ally that keeps your life from falling apart every time your emotions shift. Your future does not depend on the days you feel powerful. Your future depends on the days you don't feel like doing anything and still do the thing that matters. That is discipline. That is where identity is built. That is where confidence comes from. You don't trust yourself because of the promises you make. You trust yourself because of the promises you keep. Scientifically, discipline rewires the brain. Every time you follow through on an intention, you strengthen the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decision-making, focus, and long-term planning. Every time you give in to impulse, you strengthen the pathways of distraction and instant gratification. Discipline is not just a behavior. It is a biological training process. You are teaching your brain what version of yourself you want to become. Spiritually, discipline expands your energy field. It aligns you with purpose. It signals to the universe that you are serious about your evolution. When you act consistently, even without immediate results, your energy becomes steady, solid, grounded. You are no longer moved by moods or chaos. You become someone whose presence carries direction and clarity. Discipline aligns your inner frequency with your future self. But discipline requires honesty, brutal honesty. You must tell yourself the truth about the habits that are sabotaging you, the excuses that are slowing you down, the distractions that steal your time, the emotional reactions that break your momentum. Growth begins the moment you stop lying to yourself. If you say you want clarity, but live in constant noise, that is a lie. If you say you want strength, but feed your weaknesses daily, that is a lie. If you say you want change, but repeat the same habits, that is a lie. Discipline removes the lies. It exposes the gap between what you say and what you do. And when you close that gap, even slightly, your entire identity shifts. The strongest people are not the ones who feel motivated every day. The strongest people are the ones who continue even when they don't. They build routines that do not collapse under emotion. They build habits that do not rely on perfect circumstances. They build systems that support their future even on their worst days. If your life falls apart every time you feel stressed, tired, overwhelmed, or discouraged, what you lack is not ability. It is discipline. Discipline is not about intensity. Discipline is about consistency. It is better to do a small action daily than a perfect action occasionally. A short workout every day is more powerful than a 2-hour workout once a month. Writing one paragraph daily builds more momentum than writing a full chapter once in a blue moon. 10 minutes of silence daily is more transformative than 1 hour of meditation once every few weeks. Your brain and your spirit respond to repetition, not occasional effort. Repetition is what builds mastery. Repetition is what builds identity. Repetition is what builds trust. You become disciplined not because you force yourself, but because you repeat the behaviors that align with the person you want to be until they become automatic. But discipline also requires boundaries. Boundaries with your time, your energy, your emotions, and the people around you. Without boundaries, discipline becomes impossible. You cannot build discipline in a life where everything is allowed to interrupt you. You cannot stay focused in a world where everyone has unlimited access to your attention. You cannot stay committed when your environment is designed to distract you. Sometimes, discipline means saying no to others, to distractions, to your old habits, and even to your old self. And here is the deeper truth. Discipline gives you freedom. Freedom from chaos. Freedom from regret. Freedom from starting over again and again. Freedom from being controlled by emotions, impulses, and distractions. People think discipline is restrictive, but the opposite is true. Lack of discipline is what traps you. Lack of discipline is what keeps you stuck. Lack of discipline is what keeps you living the same year, repeatedly. When you build discipline, you build freedom. The freedom to trust yourself, to direct your life, to create momentum, to rise on command instead of on emotion. Your future is not built on one dramatic decision. It is built on the discipline to show up every day, even when it's inconvenient, even when you're tired, even when no one sees it. Discipline is not glamorous. It is quiet. It is repetitive. It is uncelebrated. But it is the foundation of every strong life. You don't need perfect discipline. You need honest discipline. You need consistent discipline. You need disciplined choices repeated enough times to change the trajectory of your life. Start small. Stay steady. Keep your word. Protect your habits. Honor your direction. Build the discipline that keeps your life together. Because when discipline becomes who you are, nothing becomes impossible for you. Chapter 13. Raise your standards and watch your life rise with them. Your standards are the silent architects of your life. They determine what you allow, what you tolerate, what you pursue, and what you walk away from. Your standards define the quality of your relationships, the strength of your habits, the clarity of your goals, and the direction of your future. And here's the truth most people never realize. Your life will always rise or fall to the level of your standards, never your desires. Desire is easy. Everyone desires confidence, success, peace, love, opportunity, financial stability, and purpose. But desire without standards is nothing more than wishful thinking. Standards are what separate people who rise from people who remain stuck. Standards are not dreams. They are decisions. They say, this is what I accept. This is what I require. This is who I am becoming. When your standards are low, you tolerate behaviors, environments, and habits that sabotage you. You accept inconsistency, chaos, disrespect, and distraction. You settle for relationships that drain you, routines that weaken you, and patterns that keep you small. You convince yourself that it's fine, even when every part of you knows it's not. Low standards create a life that constantly pulls you downward. But the moment you raise your standards, your life begins to shift. Not gradually, but immediately. Because your energy changes, your choices change, your boundaries change, your expectations change, and anything that does not align with your higher standards naturally falls away. Raising your standards is not about arrogance. It is about alignment. Alignment with your potential. Alignment with your values. Alignment with your future. Scientifically, when you raise your standards, your brain recalibrates your internal expectations. You begin to make decisions that support the new identity you are building. The subconscious mind always follows the identity it believes is true. If you raise your standards, your identity must rise to match them. This is why people with high standards evolve faster. They demand more from themselves, and their mind responds accordingly. Spiritually, raising your standards shifts your frequency. You stop attracting situations that match your old identity. You begin attracting opportunities, people, and experiences aligned with expansion. You no longer resonate with environments that shrink your spirit. Raising your standards is energetic self-respect. It signals to the universe, I am ready for more. But raising your standards is not a single decision. It is a lifestyle shift. You raise your standards in the way you talk to yourself, in the effort you give, in the habits you maintain, in the relationships you choose, in the boundaries you enforce. Standards are not spoken. They are demonstrated through action. A raised standard looks like this. You no longer allow inconsistency into your life. You no longer explain your worth to people who refuse to see it. You no longer apologize for having boundaries. You no longer stay where your spirit feels small. You no longer break promises to yourself. You no longer tolerate habits that drain your growth. When you raise your standards, you stop negotiating with your old self. You stop returning to patterns that contradict your evolution. You stop accepting the bare minimum from yourself and from anyone else. But raising your standards often means losing things, losing old friendships, losing old routines, losing familiar habits, losing comfortable identities. This is why most people never rise. They cling to what is familiar, even when it limits them. Transformation always requires letting go, and letting go requires higher standards than holding on. You must ask yourself honestly, what have you been tolerating that is slowing you down? What patterns have you accepted because they feel familiar? What behaviors have you ignored because they feel easier than change? Who have you allowed into your life simply because raising your standards felt uncomfortable? The moment you raise your standards, two things happen. You elevate your life, and anything misaligned begins to reveal itself. This is not loss. It is clarity. It is cleansing. It is the natural consequence of growth. And here is the most powerful part. Raising your standards forces the world to respond differently to you. People treat you based on the standard you set for yourself. Opportunities arrive based on the energy you hold. Life expands to meet the expectations you refuse to lower. If you want deeper relationships, raise your standard for communication and honesty. If you want success, raise your standard for discipline and consistency. If you want peace, raise your standard for boundaries and self-respect. If you want progress, raise your standard for the habits you repeat. Everything you want begins with who you are willing to become, to receive it. Raising your standards requires courage. Courage to disappoint people. Courage to walk alone for a while. Courage to choose growth over comfort. But the discomfort of raising your standards is nothing compared to the regret of staying small. Your standards are your declaration of self-worth. They say, I will not live a life beneath my potential. They say, I will not shrink to fit places that no longer fit me. They say, I choose evolution over familiarity. If you want your life to rise, your standards must rise first. Not in words, in action, in decisions, in boundaries, in consistency, in the small choices you make when no one is watching. Raise your standards, and your future will rise with them. There comes a moment when you finally see the truth. Nothing in your life changes until you do. Not when circumstances shift, not when motivation appears, but when you choose to stop living as a smaller version of yourself. Everything in this audiobook has been guiding you back to that truth. Your life is shaped from the inside out. Your thoughts, your attitude, your energy, your standards, your discipline. These are the forces that quietly build your future. You've learned that strength is not built on perfect days, but on the days when you show up anyway. You've learned that your inner voice becomes the path you walk. You've learned that the mindset that once kept you small was never your identity. It was a habit you finally outgrew. You've learned that peace is created, not found. You've learned that your reactions shape your destiny more than your circumstances ever could. And most importantly, you've learned that you are not meant to live halfway. You're not here to shrink, to settle, or to repeat the same patterns year after year. You are here to rise, deliberately, intentionally, consistently. Your transformation doesn't end with this final chapter. It begins here. Growth is a daily decision, not a moment of inspiration. The future you want will be built from the small choices you commit to, especially when it's difficult. So take ownership of your mind, protect your energy, hold your standards high, show up even when you feel off, speak to yourself with strength, and choose growth, today and every day. Because the strongest version of you isn't waiting somewhere far ahead. They're already inside you, ready for you to lead them forward. Your next chapter begins now. Thank you for listening with an open mind and heart. If a certain chapter or insight resonated most with you, share it in the comments. You might help someone else find exactly what they need today. Keep this book saved so you can return to its words whenever life calls for reflection or guidance. I wish you health, peace, and wisdom in every step you take.